So Smooth texted me.
Tell the audience who he is. Remind them just in case somebody's a first-time listener.
Smooth wrote and performed the theme song for the show. He's a big fan of the podcast. He's listening to it, and it's pretty great. And so he's texting me, and I got a really great text. I want to show it to you. Can you see that?
Ellipsis.
Ellipsis. He's so cool. He just texted me just out of the blue. Ellipsis. Because he's listening to the Casino Royale episode. And that's the text in Casino Royale. So I knew exactly. I saw it and I was like, he must be listening to our Casino Royale episode. And not only was he listening to the episode, but get this. He called me and he's like, dude, we need to talk about Casino Royale. He's like, I just listened to your episode. And I was like, okay, what do you want to say?
You're like, what more do I
And
have to say? I think I said it all.
right, yeah, I felt like I was doing like an extra session of the podcast with him because then we chatted for about 20 minutes about Casino Royale. And so he said to me, not only am I listening to your podcast, but I finished your episode and it made me want to go back and rewatch Casino Royale. And he said, the thing is, I had just watched it. He goes, I just watched it like last week. And then I listened to your episode and he said, the episode made me see the movie so differently that I felt like I needed to go back and rewatch the movie again.
That's an awesome compliment. That's an awesome compliment.
Yeah. So he said,
Ellipsis. Ellipsis.
yes.
He's very smooth. We got to say he's very smooth.
So he rewatched the movie and he had, I thought, such a great point about Casino Royale. I wish we could have had him on the episode. He pointed out that we talk about in the podcast how life is like a game of cards. Like life is, bluffing and it's life and death, but it's like a game. And he said, there's the way poker works is you have like oh man, I'm gonna mess it up. I don't even know. It's like the turn, the river.
Right. Yeah. The river. There's the river and then there's the turn card. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And he said that the movie is actually structured like that, where each section of the film operates as like a different part of a poker game. I thought that was fascinating.
So is it in a 5-act structure? Because there's 5 cards that come out on the whatever the hell it's called.
I don't know, but yeah, that blew my mind. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Now I got to go rewatch the movie, but what I also need to do is point out to you that this is 4 minutes
Yeah.
and 30
Okay,
seconds
all right.
in, and we
I'll
haven't
tell you
even
this
introduced the movie that we're going to be talking about. So I'm starting to realize, is Andrew the one that makes these things so long? I don't think
Probably.
so. But what I'm saying is, I want to help you with the editing. We're making every one of these under 2 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about The Incredible Shrinking Man, and here is our friend, Smooth.
They don't chase clout, they just chase the lore. Dig scenes that the mainstream ignores, where light fights dark in a fabled war. Yeah, the truth gets told when the movie's born. I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The scripts in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with a flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark, a puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
Intro. Okay, back out of intro. Let's get into it.
All right. Well, sure then.
We can't rant. We can't go. We can't explore. Let's get to it.
All right. All right. Well, so this week, Hazel and I, we did a run of every Mission Impossible movie. We watched. That was our little personal. That was still.
I see why every episode we've done is over 2 hours. There's no.
I'm still not talking about the movie.
Of course not. Let's give some backstory context into Andrew and his life with his wife. Let's see. What did you guys buy when you went shopping at Whole Foods this week? What else is going on? What's the weather like? Let's go.
Anyway, so I say that to say that we watched.
This is great. Please leave all this in the edit. Like, please, this will be a very funny episode.
Um, anyway, watched all the Mission Impossible movies. Got to last night, last possible moment. I waited till the end of the week, and I'm like, I gotta watch this Shrinking Man movie. I didn't really know what to expect. It's an old movie. Perhaps there's a part of me that didn't even really want to watch it.
But is that the way you presented it to her? As in like, oh, we've watched all the Mission Impossible. We got all the fun stuff out of the way. Oh, there's this one horrible thing that we have to watch for the podcast because Greg said we have to watch this. Is that the way it
Yeah,
was presented to her?
yeah, it felt like homework. It was like, okay, we have to watch this movie. We watched our fun popcorn movie, and now we have this old black and white movie.
At least you're honest. I always like that about you. You're always honest.
Yeah, because it's an old movie, and I'm like, okay, I don't even know what this movie is. So, okay, let's check this thing out.
But you love old movies. You memorize the age of every old movie that's ever been out.
I do love old movies. Over the years, I've watched fewer old movies.
Okay. If I asked you 2 weeks ago when we did the quiz, if I said what year was The Incredible Shrinking Man, would you have known?
No,
Interesting.
I had barely even heard of it.
So interesting. And it's a Criterion.
Is it? Okay, the name rang a bell. I think I've seen it around, but hadn't heard of the director or any of the actors involved. So I thought, okay, this is yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so this is yeah, so I was just kind of up in the air, like, okay, what is this gonna be? And then yeah, we turned it on last night and we watched it
Here it comes.
and
Just pull the Band-Aid off. Just get there, you little psycho.
I actually loved it.
Ah,
I thought it was incredible, no pun intended. I thought it was phenomenal. I was really blown away actually. I had no idea what to expect, and I rewound the ending and watched it twice because it went the first time, and I was like sitting there kind of in shock, and I'm like, that was honestly like one of the best endings I've ever seen, and it made me kind of recontextualize the whole movie. And then I thought, okay, I'm really trying to wrap my head around this. And so then I rewound it and I watched the last like 5 minutes over again.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful. I also I think we should save that aspect to the end of the podcast, and we should spoiler alert and everything. But I actually wrote down every line of what he says at the end of that, and
Okay.
we could talk about that. I think that is so good. I think it's so good. We need to save it. We need to save that.
Yeah. I'm glad you wrote that down because I was actually thinking the same thing. I thought I want to write these lines down.
I have it. I have it.
Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah. I mean, that ending, I thought it's like one of the best narrations, one of the best like closing narrations, I think, of any movie. So yeah, so I came away thinking to myself, I don't know if people are gonna click on this episode. It's a little known film. It's an older film. Smooth told me that he clicked on Do the Right Thing, our episode on Do the Right Thing, and he's never even seen Do the Right Thing. So he's already telling me, "Hey, I'm enjoying your podcast so much. I like listening to you guys talk about a movie when I haven't even seen the movie." So I would hope that people would do that with this movie. And what I wanted to say to people for this movie is if you happen to click on this episode and you happen to be listening, thinking, what is this Incredible Shrinking Man? It's a black and white movie. It's 1958, I think. And you're thinking, I'm never going to watch this movie. Here's what I would say, okay? Just don't think about it. Do what I did. Don't think about it. I had to watch it for the podcast, right? So I was like kind of required to sit down, press play, let it play, and just watch it. I was kind of required to do that. And I'll tell you, I would actually recommend that to every single person. I would say this is like an unknown film in our modern day culture that people don't really talk about anymore. And it's so good. I wish everybody would go watch this movie. And so I recommend just put it on, make your popcorn, sit on your couch, turn off the lights, press play, don't even think about it, and just get through the whole thing to the end. It's only 80 minutes. And those last from minute 75 to 80, one of the best endings I've ever seen to a movie. So that would be my advice to people. Listen, if they've never heard of this film.
I have to say, I think that that was one of the most beautiful rants I've ever seen you go on. I love that. However, I have to say it was 1957. Okay.
Was
it's the
it?
only correction I have to come in there. And now from now till forever, you will always remember the year of that movie. It was 1957. And I know this because my mother was born in 1950 and she saw this movie as a little girl when she was 7 years old and she saw it in theaters. And it made such an impact on her. My mom, Julie. My mom, Julie, is the reason that I switched out Fandango and put this movie here that we were watching this week. Was we have the switch. To everyone who doesn't listen to all our other podcasts, we have planned out every movie we're doing per each week until like 2033 or something like that as of now. But we have the ability to switch out our own picks. I pick one week, Andrew picks the next. I pick one week, Andrew picks the next, and we have that. But we're allowed to switch our own weeks. And I read out all the way till 2033 to my mom all of our picks. And then she said, you know what? One of the things that you should maybe add in here, she gave me a few other things that I'm thinking about potentially switching, but she goes, you guys don't have the Incredible Shrinking Man on your list. And she's very savvy. So this episode, Smooth, you're in there as well. But this specific episode is donated to my mother, who is probably our #1 fan. I don't know how many stars Smooth gave us, and I know he's telling you that he loves you a lot and the whole thing, and he likes us, and that's great. And Smooth, we love you. But I came out of my mom's belly, and she listened to our podcast, and she gave this recommendation. I'm like, gotta listen to Mom. And she raised me to love movies. When she noticed that I started liking films when I was a kid, she nurtured that to such a degree. She allowed me to take a week off of school and go watch Steven Spielberg film Amistad. Like, I got everything was just like, you are driven in this direction. I will nurture that. And she's the greatest. I was very privileged to have two great parents and this great mom. And she nurtured me from a very early age. And I saw this movie when I was very young, as she did. And she always describes the story of being in the theaters watching this film when she was 7 years old. And she had never seen anything like it. Like, the way that she describes it is very much, early 90s, 93, when I saw Jurassic Park. And very much in that same way, when I was watching this, I just had the thing that Andrew always wants me to do. If we're going to watch a movie, please rewatch it in the last week. I was able to watch this viewing of this film with my mother and father, because now when we're recording this, it's very close to Father's Day. So I came back home to visit the both of them. And I said, oh, we're going to be doing the podcast. And we swapped it out last week. We're going to be doing, The Incredible Shrinking Man. And my mom was like, oh, that's so good. I love that movie. She started telling me the story again and everything. And I said, maybe we can watch that, while I'm home now. And we got to watch it. And I got to watch that with my mom and my dad. And I hadn't watched it in, I don't know, maybe 2 decades. I hadn't watched it in such a long period of time. I'd watched it a lot. I'll take that back. I hadn't watched it a lot. I've maybe watched this movie 4 times in my life. So I'd watched it maybe 3 times when I was a kid. But it impacted me a lot then, where I go, oh, this movie's great. All the aspects, the VFX, this and that, actors, this and that. My mom had shown it to me when I was a little kid. Very first thing that I had seen that kind of sparked her into making me watch this was I'd watched the quote-unquote semi-remake with Lily Tomlin called The Incredible Shrinking Woman. That was a big movie in the 80s, where it was the exact same thing, but it was much more of a Mr. Mom type comedy that was going on with Lily Tomlin. And I think maybe I was really young watching that. My mom was like, you need to watch The Incredible Shrinking Man. Now, if you're a kid in the 80s and you're watching a colorized movie that's fairly new in the 80s, and then, first of all, your parents tell you to do something when you're a little kid, you go, oh, who wants to watch that old black and white thing? But I didn't, I didn't. Sorry, it's not that I didn't not want to watch it. I didn't have that pushback. I said, okay, I'm going to watch that. I said, okay, we put that on. I went into it, I was like, okay, yeah, it's the same thing. He's kind of shrinking, he's this and that. So I never had that first viewing of not knowing what was going to happen. I really wanted you to have that version of it. Obviously, the movie is called The Fucking Incredible Shrinking Man, so there's no way around understanding that, but that could be a metaphor. Did you think that he was going to shrink? I'm not asking you a question yet. Sorry, I'm still on a rant. I'm still talking about the viewing that I had with my mom. And when I watched this movie as a kid, I said, this is fantastic. Like, the movie was taken so seriously. That's what I loved about it. It was not you could think of it, especially at the opening, you go, okay, big fog thing coming in, whatever's happening. Okay, this is going to be this. But every aspect after that was treated by the director so seriously and the actors so seriously that you become so invested and you really do feel the weight of him shrinking. And I think we'll go into this because I finally got to watch this through Andrew's eyes. There's other metaphors and meanings to this person becoming smaller. And then I think it really hit you at the end of the movie. I think you were sitting there going, okay, guy getting smaller, guy, good special effects, this and that, cat's interesting, spider, cool, blah, blah, blah. And then when you got to the end of the movie, you saw something that made you go, oh my God, this movie was deeper than I'd thought, even though I liked the movie and I felt the thing that was going on throughout the entirety of the film. But I think at that point, you had a meaning of going, there's certain aspects of this film that I might have missed, and I might have missed themes. I'm going to shut the fuck up now.
Can we do a read of the plot? That's what I want to know. For the listeners, what is the plot of this one?
Do you have it written down, or
I do not have
burn
it.
time looking it up? Because otherwise we can't. We have 2 hours.
Let's just burn time. But I was curious. Hang on. All right, here we go.
You want to find an elevator pitch for The Incredible Shrinking Man right now, live? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go for it. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew is now Googling quickly.
Well, the reason I thought is because this is a movie that I believe people wouldn't know that well, right? So if people happen to be listening, what is the actual plot? We usually talk about movies that are so well known, you don't really need to say what the story is.
Yeah,
right?
I guess you're right. It's so funny to me because I grew up with the movie that it's weird to me that people didn't know it. So especially film people, like you knew, like when I said like 1933, and you're like, the Cabinet not of Dr. Caligari. This is the sequel to The Captain of Dr. Caligari, which is whatever. Like, you knew every fucking movie, but you didn't know this movie. I'm so glad that we were able to pick one that you didn't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Here he goes. He's narrowing in on it. He's got it. All right, Orson Welles, give us the elevator pitch to this film.
While vacationing at sea, Scott Carey is enveloped in a mysterious radioactive mist. Months later, he begins to notice unusual changes. He's losing weight and, more alarmingly, height. Doctors are baffled, and Scott continues to shrink uncontrollably. As he becomes smaller and smaller, his world transforms into a terrifying, oversized landscape. Everyday objects become deadly obstacles, and he must battle a house cat, a leaking water heater, and even a spider. But beyond the physical dangers, the film explores profound existential themes: Scott's identity, masculinity, and his place in the universe. Ultimately, as he dwindles to subatomic size, he finds a kind of spiritual awakening, realizing that existence itself is infinite and meaningful, no matter how small. Yeah.
I think that's not that we're going to divulge in wrong word, but not that we're going to veer off into just that. I think that's a good teaser. If you have to put the movie into words in like a paragraph or two and not go too deeply, I think that's good.
Yeah, my experience of this movie was I was trying to figure out, like, what is it? I don't even know what it is. When you first told me, okay, we're going to watch, your mom recommended a movie, and it's from 1957, and it's called The Incredible Shrinking Man. And it kind of rang a bell a little bit in my head, and I thought, okay, I know there was like a kind of wave of sci-fi films in the 50s, these kind of like allegorical type of, sci-fi movies.
Don't doubt my mom. I'm just gonna say that. You doubted my mom. You said Greg's mom is talking about some weird 1950s movie. Okay, we're gonna see some exploitative nightmare. Don't discount my mom. Just saying
I
that.
thought I thought it was going to be more of like a special effects extravaganza of the day.
Got it.
A B movie, maybe it would be fun. But yeah, I didn't expect it to have this like deeper element.
Well, this is the same director as The Creature of Black Lagoon from
Okay.
1954. Like this is
Okay.
this is this is Jack Arnold. He also did Came from Outer Space. I didn't know that
Okay.
prior to doing the research on this for this podcast. I just knew of The Incredible Shrinking Man as this, and then I looked into it and I said, "Oh shit, he also did that." And I was like, "Oh fuck, okay." He's got
Yeah.
a history background into this. And I watched some interviews with him and I knew what this had to do with miniatures and specifically not just rear projection, but the aspects in which I'm sure we can go into that, but you get so enveloped in the story of this that I think that the first couple times, especially now watching in 2025, obviously you're seeing some of the tricks that they're doing. You're like, oh, I see some of the matting around the edges and I see this and that. But I think very quickly, you very much easily give that away and get lost in it. You can also look at it on the fact of going like, the people watching this for the first time, they're not looking at that. They're going, how the fuck is this happening? I'm seeing this for the first time. That's why I related it to Jurassic Park.
Definitely.
And I was going like, this was my theater viewing as, an 8-year-old kid watching this movie going, oh my God. Yes, to me, the paddock scene and that still holds up today as some of the best special effects. Other people would point that out, this and that. But when the T-Rex walks by and the lights are shining on his legs as he moves from one side to the other, and the camera shake and the rain on the windshield and him being matted in behind that, I'm down. I don't care. I still think to this day that's some of the best special effects, especially if taken in context. But I think within 1957, if you're looking at this, especially my mom being a 7-year-old, there is not even a question that this is a person who is shrinking and this cat is a giant T-Rex and this is terrifying. And I think what you're kind of saying is I really like that you went into the viewing of this not underhandedly looking at it, but looking at it as in like, okay, what am I going to watch? And I think as it transfolded in front of you, I think it probably hit on many different levels that we can get into certain one of them. But also, I think we have to point out to the audience who have maybe only listened to this episode, you're also a very tall person. And I think no matter what, the way that you walk through life, other people, as soon as they see you, no matter what, if it's subconscious, mostly it's conscious, they go, wow, that guy's really fucking tall. Like, this is a tall human being. So this movie is based upon height big time. So I can only imagine you and your wife watching this and just going like, it's an aspect of this movie, even though she's a secondary character, like an Adam and Eve type thing going on. She's a secondary character, but she's sitting there going like, he's noticing it, but she is there and he's using her as the benchmark. I used to be 6'2" or 6'1" or whatever the fuck. Now I'm your height. Now I'm less. Now I'm this. Now I'm that. Until he's totally, quote unquote, emasculated, especially in the 1950s realm of this. Now, I think there are many other themes to kind of talk about when it comes to emasculization of men, and then this also being a 1950s type aspect where they've got the whole bomb radioactivity, that mist that comes at the beginning. Like, there's a lot of creepy themes that they're pushing on that were very prescient at that time that I think are kind of way ahead of their time. But I kind of wanted to just almost hint on that point, that just letting the audience know, you're an exceedingly tall human being. How is the viewing of this if you put yourselves into that character going, imagine this superpower, which it kind of is, being a really tall man in society. That's gotta be, you have to admit to a certain degree, it's gotta be a leg up or a power. If you were born 4'9", you would have a different experience and you would flow through life differently than you have at, 8'4".
Yeah, yeah. I thought of that too while watching it. I thought, oh, this is kind of funny because I'm tall, and then this is a movie about a man getting shorter, and then he's getting very insecure about it. And I thought, okay, this is interesting.
You would definitely did you get to put yourself in those shoes where you go, okay, I might have felt maybe you have insecurities about being really tall, and maybe that's something that you came around, in certain teenage years, maybe you did or maybe you didn't, but you've now accepted the fact I'm just a tall person who goes through life. Now, imagine that being taken away from you, and then not just down to a quote unquote average level of humans, but now being placed to go underneath that level and then vastly underneath that level. Like, was that something that you looked at within the character? Because that's his huge struggle. He's a 6'2" person in the 1950s, which is taller than most people in the 1950s, beyond average. Like this, they're pointing that out of going like, he's like, I've been 6'2" since I was this age and this and that. If somebody in the 1950s heard that's 6'2", that's kind of as in today as being like, okay, you're 6'6", 6'7". Like that was pointing out a very tall person. We won't go into why that happens or whatever, but they're very much pointing out, hey, my identity was I've been a taller person in life and I had this going on. And now I have deep insecurities about going down. And each one of his levels that he goes through in that movie is about going, wait a minute, what are these insecurities? What are happening? What my identity is being taken away from me.
Yeah, that's one of the things I loved about the movie. One of the many things I loved is that it has these different chapters to it where he goes through this process. There's different stages to this process. He shrinks a little bit, then he shrinks a little bit more, then he shrinks a little bit more. And it keeps going in a way where every single level, he has a different emotional reaction. And so at the beginning of the movie, it's just as interesting, really, as the end of the film, because it's all of the psychological struggles of how does he feel about what's happening. And I noticed that too about the way that a man would react in 1957 to becoming smaller. And what does that mean, for a man of that era? And I did think this might go different nowadays, like the part where he becomes famous, he's almost ashamed. He's like, oh, I'm famous and it's a nightmare.
He's hiding. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought nowadays it would be, I'm famous and this is great, and you would just be like a celebrity.
And his brother figure kind of pushes him to that, going like, hey, you've run out of money, you've run out of anything. There's all these reporters who want to buy your story. The story's going to break anyway. Lean into that and sell your story. And he is,
Yeah.
you're 100% pointing that out right. He is the one going, no, I don't want them to have that. But on the separate level, he's still writing in his journal. He wants those things to be shared. And then he finds a person who's, a little person who I think they use the term midget in the thing, which obviously is not who they cast in it. They cast a full-size woman and just put her in a big chair with a big spoon. And that's the 1950s way of doing it. And but he finds that person who he gives the outlet to go, hey, read my journal, read my things. Oh, it's wonderful. And they have the whole reckoning when they think they've figured out the doctor put the needle in him and, oh, I've stopped the shrinking. And that's like a big moment. Like you actually feel it. Like the great thing about the movie is you're invested and they find a way to invest the character. I almost want to go back to that because the opening of the movie, I can imagine you on the boat in the mist going, here's some weird 1950s movie. What was your turning point where you went from here's a weird 1950s movie that Craig's making me watch and his mom liked it to where you went, okay, I'm getting more invested in this. I'd like to have that because I'd like to explore your first viewing in this.
That's a great question because it happened immediately. I was immediately invested, which I think is why I recommend people go watch it because this is a movie that holds up so well. It's got great pacing. The story moves fast. That was what I noticed right away is that it opens with a scene on a boat. The guy and his wife are on a vacation. They're, canoodling. They're having a little romantic getaway. And there's some, playful banter between them. And then she goes down below deck and he's left on the deck. And there's this mist. In the movie, they call it a mist that kind of wafts over the boat. And then he's left with this kind of sparkly substance on his skin. And his wife comes up above deck and says, "What's going on with you? What happened?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know." And he just kind of wipes it off. And I was struck by how in a movie from 1957, the plot has kicked in instantly. And then the very next scene, he's shrinking. And it's like, we didn't even really meet this guy yet. We didn't even see his regular life. He's on vacation. And then the very next scene, he's shrinking. The movie's called The Incredible Shrinking Man. And by minute 3, he's shrinking, And I thought, okay, that's interesting because usually you think about old movies as like taking their time. And modern movies get criticized where people say, oh, the plot kicked in too quickly. They didn't set up the story enough. And here's a great example of a movie that can kick the plot in instantly and still be setting up the character and still be telling you a story and pulling you deeper in. Because what you realize as you get further into the story is that there's this deep kind of abyss that we're entering into, that there's a lot of levels here, that just the beginning of the shrinking really is just the start, that we don't need a setup. Because there's a lot of development later to come. And in fact, in the middle of the movie, I actually paused it and I thought, gosh, the movie must be coming to an end soon. And I thought, what's the runtime that we're at?
What was the moment that you paused that? Yeah.
It was only halfway. I thought the story must be wrapping up and it was only halfway.
Had he gotten to the basement yet? Because that's kind of the halfway mark.
No, that hadn't happened yet. I don't think
Got
that
it.
happened
Got
yet.
it.
Yeah,
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because that's kind of the half. You probably paused it like a couple minutes before that or whatever. That's interesting.
Because then there becomes this entire like second part of the story where it really changes.
Right. That's the second half of the movie, which is his experience and his Dante's Inferno and his whole like we could go deep.
Yeah, but I was invested immediately. Yeah, I thought it was great how they started the story so quickly, and I thought the characters had charisma and a great relationship. So yeah, just instantly I was invested.
Right.
And I think you're right. It's because I'm tall, and the conflict of the film is, oh no, I'm getting shorter.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get at. You're right. Right.
Yeah, it's like so for me, minute 3, he's shrinking and he goes to the doctor. He says, "Doc, what's going on? I think I'm shrinking." And so I guess for me, I was instantly like, okay, this is interesting.
This is an interesting. It's an attack on the way that I whether I consciously know it or not, I view myself. Like you just view yourself in this world as just like, okay, I'm identified as tall. I have to look down at the other humans that are below me. I know I've said 8'4", so now everyone just thinks like you're 8'4". But either way, we'll move on from that. And for them, you'll always be 8'4". Moving on. But I really liked, jokes aside, to be able to share something that meant something to me getting into movies, and my mom sharing a movie that meant something to her when she was 7. To me, and I've always enjoyed it, and every time I watch it, and recently I got to watch it with her and my dad at one time, and that was an amazing experience. And now we've been able to share that now with you, and then hopefully with other listeners who now will be able to go back and experience this movie because it holds up beautifully. And I love the way that you looked at the opening. Now I want to point out one other thing that might kind of blow your mind to the opening of this movie. Now, there are obviously religious aspects to this movie and this and that and the whole thing. We'll go into the ending and everything there. But there's an interesting thing here where there is in the opening shot, because you described the opening scene of going, they're on a boat. But the opening shot, and I watched this movie through Andrew's eyes because he sees crazy things. The opening shot of the movie after the credits and a little whatever happens. The opening shot is of a shoreline with the waves crashing and the camera pans up to the sky. and then it dissolves to the boat out there. Now, that specific thing is pointing up that the water pan up to the sky is showing basically the elements of life and the forces of nature. And he's going to have to overcome both of those things. He drowns in the water. He first needs water to save him when he gets into the basement. He needs water. He needs nourishment. He needs something from that. And then the water almost kills him at one point. And then at many other times, he's staring up to the sky. The amount of POVs, he can't climb up the stairs that he's looking at. He's looking at these insurmountable forces. So I think there's a very interesting thing with the first opening shot of the movie past the credits, where it's specifically pointing out, here is water and here is sky. Here are these elements. And now we'll dissolve away and bring you into our story. And we're seeing those. And that, for some reason, of me looking at going, how does psychopath Andrew look at films and decide to go, hey, I just watched Star Wars, but this actually means this. I was looking at this film and I was studying every moment. And I go, this could be an interesting thing for Andrew. And I think you kind of entered into the film in one way, but then when you got to the end, you went, holy shit, like you said, I need to look at this movie another way. So I'm just pointing out that aspect of it to go, just to let you know, the opening shot was waves crashing, slow pan up into sky, now dissolve into the boat.
I see that. That's great. I understand what you're saying. It essentially introduces the elements that he will later have to conquer. And it's introduced very subtly. I mean, I would say that's pretty subtle.
Very subtle. Very, very subtle.
Yeah. But I love that. Yeah.
I might be Andrew reading into something very too much, where they just go, we got to get past the credits, and we could have cut to the boat, but we got this B-roll shot, we'll just do this. That's one aspect of the way of looking at it. But I do think, and I think that maybe you'll agree, the ending of the movie is so deliberate, and every choice within the movie does seem deliberate. Like, it doesn't seem like they phoned any scene in this movie. It seems like every aspect is deliberate, that I'd have to look at, okay, what's the opening shot of your movie? To you as a director, if you spent the time doing everything else and making it deliberate, this has to mean something, at least to the director.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's like a secret masterpiece, really. Because what you're saying about how every single element, it's one of those movies where you can break it down and you can look at how every single decision plays into this overall mosaic. And they're foreshadowing things and setting things up and paying things off. And the whole time I was thinking, where is this movie going? You know, because I don't know, like, what is the actual story? Like, yeah, it's about a guy who's shrinking, but what is the real story? Like, you know, what's the takeaway? And so to get to the end and realize that it's so beautifully woven together, and it's this cohesive story that really truly has a purpose, and it hits you with this punch, and it's like, it makes you then go back and look at it from the beginning again, like recontextualize everything. It wasn't really a twist ending, but it was, for me, an ending that made me want to go back and now watch it again, you know, knowing now where it's going to go. Because of course the second viewing is always a little bit different, right? When you know what the ending is.
100%.
So I'm coming at this like really, really raw. But yeah, I see what you're saying, that you can actually look at it and realize that, you know, from a director standpoint, filmmaking standpoint, it's a masterful movie.
This episode is brought to you by chair pants, the revolutionary pants that are also a chair. Tired of standing, but also tired of sitting in regular pants? Chair Pants has you covered. Using patented Sit Anywhere technology, Chair Pants deploys in under 2 seconds, so you can sit whenever and wherever. Meetings? Sit. Elevators? Sit. Waiting in line for coffee while rethinking all your life choices? Sit. How does it work? Hidden inside each leg are lightweight telescoping carbon fiber supports. Add in NASA-grade gyroscopes for perfect balance, and you've got instant mobile sitting power. No chair required, no dignity lost. Chair Pants, because chairs are just pants that gave up. Use code SITDOWN for 15% off your first pair. Your quads will thank you.
You know, what I loved about the movie though is that it actually takes these twists and turns. It's actually like kind of a complicated movie because even though it's only 80 minutes long, it starts with this whole like gender kind of commentary thing going on. And then it veers into, you know, he's bitter, he's angry, he's resentful, he's like mistreating his wife, he's kind of yelling at her, and he knows he's doing it. And in the voiceover, he's saying, feel so guilty. I know I'm treating her terribly, but I just can't help it because he's kind of just so lost in his emotions, which by the way is also a kind of a not a masculine trait, right? To kind of just be so swept away with your emotions. So he's like, he can't control himself to like a destructive degree where now he's like mistreating his wife. And the movie takes this turn where he meets, you mentioned it, the other woman.
From the circus. Yeah.
Yes, he passes, there's a scene where he's passing a circus and they're doing, you know, a kind of female version of him. It's like a super small woman. And it turns out she's very beautiful and charming, and they have like a date. And all of a sudden, it's veering into a direction where I'm watching it for the first time and I'm thinking, is this movie going to be like a domestic kind of drama? Is it like he's going to cheat on her? I thought it was going to be an affair. And I'm thinking, where's this movie going? You know?
You're waiting for the 2025 version of an MTV Movie Awards drama that's going to happen here. And it builds just to one thing. Holy shit. We became in a relationship. I showed you my diary. I showed you this. And at that moment for the audience, he thinks that he's stopped shrinking. So he thinks that this is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And he forms the relationship with her only to realize that now I have a point of demarcation to realize that over the last 3 months of knowing her or whatever it is, they don't define the time frame. When he steps off the park bench with her, the last time we see him meet with her, he goes, holy shit, I'm now shorter than you. And when I met you, you specifically said I was taller than you. So they're using her as a benchmark for two ways, which is really smart. Number one, I can relate to a person who kind of relates to things that I'm relating to. And then number two, he pushes her away as soon as he realizes, holy shit, I now can see you as a benchmark and now I'm shorter than you.
I loved that turn. I loved that the movie does this whole sequence that's like the affair sequence where he meets this other woman and it's really going in that direction. They're getting closer and closer.
And it's not an affair sequence. The movie tricks you.
It's not. Right, because it's done as if he's falling in love with her. You know, he's finally met someone that makes him feel normal again and is making him understand maybe he does have a place in the world.
This is his solution to all his problems. You finally found the one.
Yeah. And even though his wife is wonderful, there's nothing wrong with her. I mean, she's an incredible woman because she decides to stick with him through everything.
She stands by his side the entire time. There is no scene where she's sitting there going like, oh my God, he's so little. Oh my God, I hate this guy. Like, she's distraught.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, obviously the brother wants to fuck her. There's some weird shit going on there where the brother's like, I got to get you out of this house. You got to come to my, like, forget whatever the fuck. Yeah. There's some weirdness there with how quick the brother wants her out of that. We won't go into that. That's just a distraction, but brother, little much.
I totally agree with you. I felt that way too. Yeah. Yeah, and even when he gets lost in the basement later, and she says, "I think he might be dead." You know, they declare him dead, and you know, but even still, my wife said to me at that point, she's like, "Gosh, does she even care about him?" Because she just agreed that he was dead really quickly. Aha! But then the very next scene, the wife was distraught and she was crying and saying, "What if he's still alive?" So even then, the wife was hanging on, even though her husband is, 3 inches tall. She still wants to keep the relationship and keep her life, going. So the movie gives you no indication that he, should cheat on his wife. But at the same time, he's so emotional and he's mistreating her and he's pushing her away. Almost like this way of, pushing away the shame of like, you used to know me as the tall guy. And there's actually an interesting sequence where it's one night. This is early in the film, and the wife says, "I'm going to bed, honey." And he's about at this point he's about what, like 4 feet tall. He looks like a child. He can look out the windowsill, just barely.
Yeah, compared to you, he's like the rest of us humans. Yeah.
Yeah. And his wife says, "Good night, honey. I'm going to bed." And he gives a voiceover that says, "I wish I could make love to her."
I wish I could fuck my wife. I wish I could fuck my
Yes.
wife. I mean, it's basically
Basically, yeah.
in a 1950s way, the masculinity of him. He was a 6'2" guy who had his wife. He had all his stuff together. He had everything going on. There is a weird thing that they do point out. I don't know why they do, because they don't set him up as like, you're some guy who's got everything together at the beginning. They do set him up on the boat where they cut him down a little bit, where they don't set him up as in like, you're a billionaire who has this and that. Because she goes, you're still on your friend's boat or your brother's boat or whatever the fuck. And I noticed that aspect of going like, why was that
Oh.
stated there within the context of where they're going? I was like, it might have been better to put him on a higher pedestal, but they explicitly in that opening scene point that aspect out. And it's like stated. Did you have a reason for that when you think back to it, or no?
I did not notice that. Being my first viewing, I didn't notice
Right.
that. You're saying there's a line of dialogue where the wife actually says, "Oh, this is your brother's boat."
She called it, I don't know if she said brothers, but it was like, you
Okay.
got this boat because of X, Y, and Z. Like they're
Okay.
not
Okay.
explicitly stating like, hey, you're a billionaire and you have everything. And it might be easier to cut him down after that because of it, but it's an exposition that I was, watching this through Andrew's eyes the first time. I'm looking at the water into the sky and what could these mean. So I'm looking at it on that level. But watching that opening scene, there is the moment where I was like, why did they point that out? I'm like, why did they do that? Because they're not
Ooh.
setting it up for anything specifically that's a specific payback that comes back into it. But I was like, somebody wrote that into the script for a certain reason. And maybe they're trying to say, like, maybe they're trying to point out, hey, we're middle class. Like, maybe they're trying to not point out, like, hey, we're billionaires. So, okay, we don't want to be disservice. I don't know. I won't do a giant rant on that.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because it could be whether it's the brothers boat. The idea of the brothers boat, it kind of captures my imagination because then the idea, and I noticed that the brother is always wearing a suit, and he looks like he probably has more money maybe than the other brother.
I mean, the brother's ready to swoop in and fuck the wife, like no matter what. He's there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and
Yeah.
watch this as we go and not
Okay.
keep
So
time. I'm gonna try
I'll
to see.
make a point.
Keep going. Keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, but perhaps the idea could be whether it's the brothers boat or not, but the fact that there's a mention of this, it could be like this idea of he's not able to have a boat of his own, He's not rich. He's not some super high status society guy. And so, maybe he's not broke, he's not poor, but he's not as successful as his brother, and maybe he's not as successful as other men. And maybe there is a little bit of that implication of like an emasculization happening. Did I get that word right? Emasculinization?
Okay, I got the line. He goes, I provide the boat, you provide the beer. And she specifically says after that, oh, your brother provided the boat.
Aha.
So that is huge.
See, and that's where I say there's pushback. And so it's almost like this feeling of this isn't your boat. And so I'm not going to do what you say,
So that is a huge indication to actually what we can read into for the rest of the movie and the way that his brother is so quickly, oh, well, he's done. Get in my car. We're going to drive away. And I can't wait to pull you away from this place and
Right.
impregnate you and do what God knows what would do. There's a whole subtext there. And now it might come back to this specific line. And this might also come back just being placed in there for the fact that it's another one of the thing that makes him feel like he's not good enough. because I think this
Right.
whole movie is the weight down on this character, showing he's not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. And that's why the end of this movie is such a release.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. The movie veers away from that affair part, right? It veers away from that. And there's this now jump where he shrinks again, right? And from this point on, this is where the movie completely changes. And now it's like this other world where he's so small, a house cat is a giant monster and it can kill him. And it does a great cut where it cuts to him. He says, it's happening again. I'm getting smaller again. And then it cuts to him and it looks like he's in his house. And then all of a sudden it cuts out again and you realize he's in a dollhouse inside his house. And so now the movie takes on this whole other type of story where it's the story of being so small that you're basically now back in the jungle, where it's like you're going to get killed by a cat or a spider, or now there's animals and creatures that are after you, and you're just in like this wilderness and you just have to survive and nobody can help you. And the movie proceeds to just, yeah, have this whole second portion, which is it's like, compelling in its own way, where it now like the monster movie part kind of kicks in. And yeah, the cat sequence I thought was great. I mean, the cat attacks him in a dollhouse, and yeah, it's it was like I said, it was like Jurassic Park.
It's
Um,
terrifying. They
yeah.
made a cat terrifying.
Yeah, and I thought it was so smart filmmaking wise, where they're able to take these simple scenarios of just an ordinary house cat or a set of drawers, or a spider, and shoot it in a way where it becomes this massive epic, scale.
Yeah, him
Pretty
sitting
cool.
there going, how can I climb this stairs? And they put those stairs in front of you and they shoot them from the angle where you go, oh my God, it's Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah, yeah.
The male of the 1950s being forced. I think this is a different way of looking at it, because now we just go, oh, he's living in a little house. But the male of the 1950s being forced to live in a dollhouse becomes a symbol of emasculation. A
Mm.
man is now trapped in this toy world of being in this playhouse. And this is the first time I think we really see him, because we've taken a big jump from where he was like, I don't know, 4'9", 3'6", or whatever. But now he's like 5 inches tall, 4 inches tall, somewhere around there. And we've taken a big leap. And now his wife comes up and he's living downstairs. She seems to be living upstairs. And she comes down and every step she takes is like a headache to him, because now he's this little person. When she steps, it's a giant fucking moving, and he's going, and now his insecurities are as big as possible. He comes out this little door and starts screaming at his wife. Didn't I tell you, you can't talk, like you can't do this? He's trying through his emasculation of I'm nobody. I can't even relate to human society anymore, but I'm trying to keep some form of control, and I'm trying to keep something over my wife right now, and I'm screaming at her going, you should have been I'm trying to keep some level of control of things outside of my world. And that insecurity is almost a jump cut from what happened in like the previous sequence, where he's like, I'm with this woman, I'm showing my diary, I'm doing whatever. Oh my God, I'm shorter. I'm going to run in this field where it's spraying whatever. And you can kind of see him start slowing down. It dissolves away in a weird 1950s way. But that moment is a big defining moment, showing how separated from society he is and how much control he's trying to get over that specific thing. And his wife is being as nice as possible and this and that. But this is all about, the story we're watching is all about him and his insecurities. And I think that's a big, big theme throughout this. His wife doesn't really ever treat him differently. He's going through this metamorphosis. And I think it really should be something that's pointed out here. she doesn't treat him differently. She doesn't go, "Oh my God, you're getting shorter. I don't like that. I don't this, I don't that." The only moment of that is she goes, "As long as you have your ring on, we're still married." Now, the ring drops off. We cut to the shot and we hold on him and his reaction to that, not her. We have a quick shot of her, but we don't cut to her and she goes, "Oh my God, the ring fell off. I'm done with you, husband." Maybe she should have taken the dollhouse and put it in the bedroom where they both slept. Sure, that might be one thing, but then maybe the cat couldn't have got there easier. I'm saying what they're really pointing out is this is his insecurity and his journey. And I think they do that really well. And I think that's why the audience watches this going, your own insecurities and your own problems reflect in the world so much bigger than other people look at them. And I think
Mm.
that kind of even comes back to what you're talking about of going, the other people outside trying to report on him or trying to do this and trying to do that. We don't ever cut outside to go to the reporters or see those reports. We see it from his point of view, and all of his point of view is negativity. And I think that's why the ending of the movie is such a release. I'll shut the fuck up now.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite aspects of the movie, you're right, is the like the gender dynamics and the relationship between the husband and wife, but also how he reacts to the shrinking, the feeling of being emasculated. That's what sucked me in, I think, right at the very beginning, is this. So he starts shrinking immediately, and then the very next thing that happens is basically he starts getting really angry. The emotions kick in. Like, yeah, I loved the little bit with the wife. She says, I married you. I'm gonna love you no matter what. So she's a great wife, and they have this strong bond and relationship. And so there's this human element, the relationship between husband and wife. And keep in mind too, I'm also wondering like, where's this movie going? I don't even know,
Right.
what the story is gonna be. So I'm like, okay, husband and wife, there's clearly this kind of romance element between them. Yeah, and then right away, he gets really upset, and he's like angry and he's bitter and he's yelling at his wife and he's not really understanding like what is my new place in society. And I was very much thinking while watching it, this is a 1950s way of feeling, because he's thinking, I'm a man. I have to have a value to society. A man is supposed to be certain things. And so if I don't live up to the accepted definition of what it means to be a man according to this 1950s society, I am a failure. And so he goes into this existential crisis immediately, but it becomes more so of like a social crisis, this social existential crisis is, how do I exist in my society first?
Yeah, it's a crisis of masculinity. And like he's in a world like with these all shifting kind of, the aspect of the cloud is like an atomic, suburban, this is gonna get really existential bullshit, but suburban disillusionment of like the changing gender roles that men feared potentially in the 1950s of losing significance. And like his character Scott is like the physical manifestation of that specific fear. And that is the most ridiculous way to potentially put that, but I actually think that aspects of that are within all of the fears that the director is trying to put in this movie. And I might be totally rewriting history in here, but I saw all of that. And either way, if it's there or if it's not, it is still resonant the way that the director set up this movie to be applicable to aspects of 60 years later.
It's funny you say that, because the very opening scene where he's laying on the boat with his wife and the banter they're
Oh,
having.
he's very sexist. He's going, "Go get me a beer, bitch." Like he's very, very, very 1950s like TV commercial. Woman, go make me a sandwich. I will just be here. I'm on my vacation, wench. Like that is the one aspect of that. It doesn't really show up again. Yes, he
Okay.
screams when he's little. So imagine that one scene where he walked out of the Barbie doll house and he's screaming, but he's 6 feet. That would have been different, but for some reason it's minimized because he's little. But the opening scene of that, like watching that with his hand behind his head, he's like, "Get me a beer, wench." You do have to look at that. I I I don't specifically think that every person in the 1950s was doing that. I'm sure my mom can attest that they probably weren't, but there's certain aspects of that. But I think within the context of the movie, that was done as a specific thing to show that, hey, later these roles are going to be reversed. The way my mom put it, which is very nice, she said, because what happens after that, for anyone who hasn't watched it, the cloud comes through. And my mom was just like, yeah, he should have got his own beer. Like, because if he did, it would have been the incredible shrinking woman. It would have happened in the 1950s. She would have shrank. He would have been like, oh, honey, you shrunk. Oh, I'm so sorry. And he would have put her in the dollhouse. But he didn't
Yeah.
get his own fucking beer. So this is what you get for telling your wife to go get you a beer. That's the whole meaning of the entirety of the film.
I think that this might be a slight difference between you and me
During that scene, did you tell Hazel to go get you a beer?
because the way I interpret it,
You did tell Hazel to go get you a beer. This is what happened. This is what happened during that scene. Got it. Okay. So, how did you measure yourself yesterday and how tall are you today? Because things might happen. They happen slowly. I'll still be your friend, but I just want to know.
the way I interpreted that scene is that she was actually giving him a lot of pushback. That all he asked for was just a beer. Hey, honey, can you go get me a beer? Right? And she should just be like, of course, honey, sure. But instead, I was actually struck
Well,
by,
should she? Should she? Here we go. Should she?
well,
Should
sure,
she?
why not? I mean, what's wrong with that? You love your husband, he asked you politely, go get a beer. You're on vacation, go get him a beer. What's wrong with that?
He asked you politely, go get a beer. That's different than going, hey honey, can you do me a favor? Can you please go and get me a beer? Instead of, hey honey, go get me a beer. That's not asking, that's telling. Oh, now we're
Well,
going.
I was actually struck. I noticed that. I thought, gosh, this scene actually has a combative nature. That it's meant to be this little introduction scene. It's kind of playful, but it also has a conflict of like, who's in charge?
They're
Because he says,
definitely
hey,
doing that
honey.
on purpose. You know it's purposeful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it ends up going into this plot about, yeah, how he feels like he's shrinking and he's emasculated. And so I definitely thought that there is a kind of through line there. So that's interesting about the brothers boat because that means that I said I interpreted that scene as like she's giving him pushback and saying, well, this isn't your boat. His reason, go get me a beer. Why? Because I provided the boat. But then she says, you didn't provide the boat, so therefore I don't have to go get you the beer, right? So now it's like a little debate. And the reason is because he couldn't provide the boat. He's not rich enough. He's not good enough, quote unquote, right?
And the same thing. Why should I do this for you? Because I'm 6'2". Well, now you're not 6'2". That's the indication to his character. So we're setting up his character going, I'm providing this, so you should do this. And that's the way that he looks at the world.
Yeah.
You should do this for me because of X, Y, and Z. And that's setting up his character to go, I am this, I provide this, I do this. You should do this for me because of that. And all of that is ripped away from him. And it comes from him having that I'm 6'2". I provide this, I do that. And the movie slowly rips this man and everything that he identifies of himself down to nothing. His clothes don't fit. He's short. He's this, he's that. He can't work. He can't do anything. And now we find a shell of a man by the end of this movie who, as that shell, conquers monsters. that are bigger than him, and no one's around to see it. He conquers these giant monsters trying to kill him. He gets his food. He does this and that. He finds self-reliance. He finds everything, and no one is around to see these great things that this person has done. He's the only one to be able to do these things, and no one's able to sit there and go, wow, that was awesome. And he knows no one will be able to see this ever again. And then he finds these moments within himself of going, no one has seen the greatness that I've done. He's a man on Mars that no one knows he's on Mars. And he's like, I've conquered everything. No one will ever be able to see this. But within all of this, I can look up at the heavens and I can feel that I've done something and I know that I'm something. This episode is brought to you by Rewind Society, a private club for analog purists and those who still believe the tracking knob was mankind's greatest invention. Each month, members receive a hand-labeled, unmarked VHS tape in the mail. What's on it? That's not for us to say. Could be a taped over broadcast of WCW Nitro, a local furniture commercial from 1992, or something that was never meant to be recorded. All we ask is that you watch it alone, at night, and please, be kind, rewind. Apply now at Rewind Society. Use code Andrew and Greg .tapehiss to skip the beta testing waitlist. Rewind Society. The past is calling. Pick up a landline.
Yeah, and then of course he gets kicked into the basement, and now you go into the whole finale sequence. And from this point on, he's never gonna come back.
And that's when he's in the basement. If you look at that, because we talked about structure of film, that's the halfway point of the movie. Him getting in the basement is the halfway point of that film. If you drag the little timestamp back to it, half of the movie's in the basement. The first half of the movie, a lot of dialogue, people talking this and that. Whole second half of the film, besides them when they go down to the basement and his wife says like 3 or 4 words, and his brother says 3 or 4 words there's no dialogue in that movie besides his inner monologue that he has going on.
Yeah, this is the point where they declare him dead because they think the cat ate him.
Yeah, they think the cat ate him, meaning like the brother's like, yeah, bro, he's dead. Let me go fuck you.
Yeah.
Like there's some creepy shit going on there real quick in the 1950s. He's like, get in the car.
They want him to be dead, I think. That's the way I interpret it.
Not
like,
they want. I think I think the brother wants him to be dead. He's like, you're gonna come, because he's not gonna like, you're gonna come to my hotel and be. He's like, you're coming back to my wife. You're coming back to my harem.
Yeah.
Like there
is an interesting aspect of like the brother is kind of representative of like the elder male who is sort of higher status, who's gonna come in and basically act whatever, he's going to steal your wife, or he can, do whatever he wants, basically. So at this point, the wife leaves, that's it. The brother convinces her. She has a little show of emotion and says, oh, what if he's still alive? And the brother says, don't worry about it, and so they're off. They're in the car. And I was, as a first-time viewer, I was thinking, well, gee, what's going to happen? Are they going to come back? Or, but no, the answer is they're gone. That's it. They're out of the movie. That's the last you see of those characters. You can presume, they go off and live their life, but the audience, for a first-time viewer, doesn't know that yet. You cut back to the guy in the basement, and now, what's going to happen now? And from that moment on, it just heads toward this finale, which becomes this transcendent finale. Of course, I didn't know that's where it was going, but now I realize that it's like the whole plot is kind of clearing the way for him to have that moment. It's all leading to that final moment. And I actually was watching it thinking like, gosh, this is, I mean, I really loved it. And I thought it's kind of become like an instant favorite of mine now. And it's a movie that I really think is going to stick in my mind because it's not very often.
It's a comfort film. You'd have to say it. You can kind of put this on and just watch this as a comfort. as well, or not. Let me know if you disagree with that. But I feel, to me, that I can now watch this as a comfort movie.
I thought it would actually be a great movie to remake. I wonder if there's a
Well,
way.
they already
I
did
know
it.
that
They did The Incredible Shrinking Woman. That's what I told you, Lily Tomlin.
yeah, I'm saying let's bring it now full circle again back to do like in 2025 a remake of The Incredible Shrinking Man. No, you don't want to see that.
What would you do different to make it better? No, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not
I
shooting
can
your idea
tell.
down. I'm.
Okay.
I'm saying, okay, I'm the big wig. Now I'm holding the big cigar, and I'm going. All right, Andrew, you got. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, you got the elevator pitch. Give me. Why? You want that Trick and Man movie? Yeah, yeah. You see? All right, pitch me.
My challenge would be how would you remake this movie now? Keep the heart, keep the spectacular finale, but do it in a way where modern audiences will be just as wowed as they were in 1957. Because I think your Jurassic Park analogy was fantastic. That this is a lot of this movie is like kind of like a creature feature, where it's almost like a monster movie. And but it's using the
Coming from the
size.
guy who directed the Creature of Black
Yeah.
Lagoon, but this has
Yeah.
this has so much heart, and we get that. I
Yeah.
don't want to distract you. Keep going. Yes. How do you pitch it today?
Because the movie's using the size and it's using the scale of like we're gonna, green screen this little guy against just a room and he's gonna be walking on the carpet and he's gonna look small. And if we see that nowadays, I mean, we have Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, we have Ant-Man, there's
Mhm.
lots of movies like this where modern audiences have seen this. So yeah,
Yeah, of
my
course,
question
but
would be how
you're now going story versus how do we sell the movie to Hollywood audiences? So how tall is Taylor Swift's boyfriend? Because maybe these two people work out in this. That's the Hollywood way of looking at this, and they would just go, Taylor Swift, could she maybe be the character? And who's that guy who's trending right now with her? And are they here? Can we have a breakup song in this? Can we do that? Can we have this? And how much can he shrink? Imagine him being big. Does he shrink just by tall or also muscle mass shrinks with him? And they'll look at it that way and they'll go, how many of the kids are going to buy the tickets these days? How many are going to stream them these days? And that'll be the aspects.
what I'm saying is,
Something different. Something
well,
different.
we've seen this. We have seen this type of special effects, over the decades. And so that would be the question. I think at the time there was a kind of a wow factor. But even nowadays, I tell you, watching it, I mean, to see a little guy and a giant spider and he has to fight this giant spider. I mean, it's still interesting to watch.
Yeah, I didn't have that. I don't think my mom had that on the day. She had the guy's getting small, but I think
Mm.
to this day, what specifically holds up, because obviously to today's standards, when you and I, if we put our high-powered body perspective on this, we go, got it. I see the matte lines. I see what they're doing. They didn't do green screen because there was no fucking green screen back then, but they're doing their cutouts of the special effects and they're using they used large prop set pieces, split screen, rear projection, and optical printing was the big thing that you're seeing the matte basically going around now. But that's not a distraction, and I don't think it was a distraction for you at all as watching this. The heart of this story was told by the storyline and this person feeling what they were going through. And the director did such a good job of pointing out to you that this narrative thread of what this person is feeling and what this person is going through made you feel that you're not sitting there just going like, oh, the matte lines are this. Like, I think they did all of that as good as it could be done to that specific day. So yes, you can update it and you could put new people in here and you could have it in color and this and that. But the heart of the story is going to be the same thing that affected you when you watched it. So then you have to go, what's the reason to remake the thing? Just fucking take kids, take their TikTok away, take their fucking phone away, and go watch The Incredible Shrieking Man from 1957 and shut the fuck up. Like, that's one aspect. I like the Hollywood aspect of going, yeah, we could remake it. Let's put Colin Farrell in here. I mean, that's a way old reference to who would not be in this movie, right? He'd be the doctor if they were gonna fucking make this movie
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, he'd be a good doctor.
He'd be a great doctor.
Yeah,
He'd be a
yeah,
great doctor.
yeah.
He'd be a sexy doctor. Yeah, he'd be a pretty sexy. We get some of the 35, 40-year-old women in there in this audience. That'll take care of that. But now who's going to be the TikTok generation? Who's going to get sorry, joking around too much. I honestly think that the the actor who is in this playing Scott is phenomenal because you're with him, you're in his internal monologue for the first half and then especially the second half. The second half of the movie has almost no dialogue in the film. It's almost like Castaway. Like
Yeah.
he is Robinson Crusoe and now he's cast away into this basement area which is like Tom Hanks being on a desert island. And you're sitting there going, "Who are you?" Except now you have monsters. And now you have water that's trying to drown you. Now you have tarantulas trying to kill you. Now you have all these aspects that you're going into. And one of the cool things about that is everything that he does to solve the problem that he's faced with is super smart. And I always love that aspect when you treat the audience as if they are a very high intellectual people. Because everything that he does and every choice that he makes, maybe besides the fact when you finally get up to the bread, you should have thrown all the bread down to the bottom. You don't have to climb it twice. It's the only thing that I would potentially say there. Throw all the fucking bread down. Besides that, and that's only like on fourth viewing or whatever the fuck, but you're never sitting there going, "Hey, stupid person, protagonist in this movie." Like, all of his choices are really good that he
Yeah.
does. And I think that that is one of the aspects that makes the audience, even now, fucking, what is it, 60, 70 years later, look at this and go, "Oh, I'm following you on your journey because I feel that, yes, the shrinking aspect, that sucks. But I love all the decisions that you're making throughout this. And none of them makes me get turned off and go, oh, okay, you're a moron. Now, why do we have to do this?" And that happens so many times in movies these days where you're watching it and you're going, "Okay, I'm with you for 10 minutes." And then you go, "That was stupid. Now I don't relate to you. That's dumb." Almost all the decisions that are made throughout this, you're going like, "Yeah, shit, I'd do that." And then a few of them that he actually makes, you go, "Shit, would I have thought of that? That's pretty smart. I'm into that. Yeah, holy shit, you're right. You got to get there. You got to do this. You got to do that." Damn. Like, I like it when the character is smarter than me. And it seems like in this movie, the character is smarter than you way more than in modern day movies many times, where you're just going like, "That's dumb. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I'll shut the fuck up now. Go for it."
Yeah, it's got that classic horror movie quality where you're wondering, what would I do? And so it's this constant engagement of like, ooh, what would I do? Like, oh, I would do this. And you're kind of rooting for him. And um I kept stopping during moments in the movie and I would go, oh, why doesn't he do this? He should do this. So it really engaged me. And sometimes he'd
What's
be
yeah?
doing
Give me one
something
one example. Give me one example of that because I think that would be interesting.
like when he was trying to get the first bit of food out of the mousetrap in the basement. And there's a nail laying next
Oh
to the
yeah, yeah,
mousetrap,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
thought,
yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah.
you got to use the nail. I'm like, use the nail and push it from afar. And he kind of maneuvers it, and then he starts to do that. Then he picks up the nail, and I was like, aha, okay. And you're right. Sometimes he would be in a situation, and I wouldn't have an idea, and I'd be like, oh God, how's he gonna get out of this one? And I'm like, and that's where you're saying the character is ahead of you as well a lot of the time where you're wondering like, well, what would I do? I don't know. And it's like, and the movie's going like the cat is attacking him, in his little house. And you're like, well, how are you gonna get out of this one? That one was that I thought that sequence was great. And it did remind me of the T-Rex sequence in Jurassic Park. Yeah.
There's an aspect to that as well. So, all right, Fuck. All right, I gotta hit up each one of those points.
There's so
They're all
much.
really good. They're all really good. I had the exact
Yeah.
same thing when he's trying to take the food from the mousetrap. You're sitting there going like, no, no, take the take this, do it this way. He's through his inner monologue also going like, I'm not thinking straight. I'm malnourished. I'm doing this, but they're also they make that scene so suspenseful. Like when else is there a human being that it now understands how a mousetrap works, but for your survival, you need to get the food on the mousetrap. And if you walk
Yeah.
on there, so he goes, "Oh, I needed it." And they obviously set it up. Here's the giant nail, but then he tries to do it, and then tries to do it, and then tries to do it, and they milk that scene maybe too much, but it works so well. Like there's
Yeah.
something about that when you watch it and they keep cutting it to going, oh, it's gonna snap. Oop, it's gonna snap. Oop, it's gonna snap. And I think that
Yeah.
scene is it's a really great scene. It's torturous to watch more than once, but
Yeah.
it's a really good, well done scene, at least the first time. And you know he's not gonna be snapped in half.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by chair pants, the revolutionary pants that are also a chair. Tired of standing, but also tired of sitting in regular pants? Chair Pants has you covered. Using patented Sit Anywhere technology, Chair Pants deploys in under 2 seconds so you can sit whenever and wherever. Meetings? Sit. Elevators? Sit. Waiting in line for coffee while rethinking all your life choices? Sit. How does it work? Hidden inside each leg are lightweight telescoping carbon fiber supports. Add in NASA-grade gyroscopes for perfect balance, and you've got instant mobile sitting power. No chair required, no dignity lost. Chair Pants, because chairs are just pants that gave up. Use code SITDOWN for 15% off your first pair. Your quads will thank you.
Okay, so to talk about the ending, I was thinking to myself for the whole movie, this is interesting because he keeps getting smaller and they keep taking it to like another level where he gets drastically smaller and his world changes around him. And I was thinking to myself, how far are they going to take it? Because is he going to get so small that he goes like subatomic? You know, it's like you could go to the level of like particles where he exists in a world that we can't even comprehend anymore. And I was kind of thinking like, is the movie going to go there? Or can I thought, gosh, I hope it does. Because I was worried it would have a kind of ending that's like, oh, just, and now I got bigger again or something. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and then everything was fine or whatever.
No, I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad. I think as you are that it didn't go that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could have ended with, he gets the doctors eventually, he kills the spider and the doctors say, we figured out the thing. Yeah.
Oh, we all
Yeah. And then he,
happy. You're big. Yeah, you're big again. You can fuck your
yeah.
wife. Yeah, we're
Right.
all happy.
Yeah.
Solution. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't end. But the movie does end on without that last speech that he gives. It could be the most tragic movie that there ever was. If he doesn't change his mindset to look at the world in a positive way, if he doesn't finally do that and he still looks at the world in the way that he's been through the entire movie, and he goes, it's all against me, it's all terrible, it's all this, it's all that. It could have ended with, okay, roll credits. This person learned nothing. And this is terrible. The whole fact of the end of that movie is that this person has now accepted the fact that they understand that all of the things, their height, their this, their who they were, their everything, that doesn't matter anymore. Your place within this universe is bigger, and you have now found your place for yourself of what you're doing. I'm not putting that in the right words, but that's what the end of that movie is trying to convey of the character arc. There's only a character arc, not because he fought a spider or did this or did that, but he finally had the acceptance of going, my height doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, none of these other aspects matter. I feel okay in the way that I am right now when I feel I have a place in this fucking vast void of things. And he gives up fighting that he doesn't. Like there's a huge resonance of what is trying to be said there that like transcends this movie. And I think most movies don't even get to the point of what is trying to be explored within the last like fucking 90 seconds of this movie. Are you on that same vibe?
100%. Yeah, I mean, it reminded me of like 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, it had that quality.
That's what they're trying to they're reaching for that. They're reaching for that level.
Yeah, and it goes to the cosmos. You know, it like that's one of the final. Is that the last shot? Actually, is the last shot
The
of
last shot is the full fucking
cosmos
stars and
itself.
cosmos, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to turn on or turn off people because I don't think that they're trying, even though they say God twice within that, I don't think that that is the message. Neither the director or the writer of the original novel are trying to like shove God down somebody's throat. They're literally just looking for this void of give it up in connection to this thing that is bigger than you. Give it up to this void that you kind of can't understand. Richard Matheson, who also wrote I Am Legend in 1954, you know, that's the writer of this. And
Oh.
specifically the director Jack Arnold, The Creature of Black Lagoon, and everything else that we've talked about. Neither one of them were ever known to be like super godly people. So what I love about this ending is that they did say God twice in that finalization of what he's coming to. I think that might have been a way in to give a certain thing, and certain people will accept that, but it doesn't push the ending off from people who might not believe in God. The ending is it's so open and accepting because you've watched this person, this Jesus-like character, go through hell. You've watched him be crucified and everything is nothing left. And yes, he's got his piece of bread, but now he has no more water or this or that and the whole fucking thing and everything. Bread, water, Jesus, whole thing. I don't understand how you haven't seen all of those connections because I just saw your face go, wait a minute, what? All of that is in this movie. And at the end of it, you watch this person still just shrinking because it doesn't matter if he has bread or water or this and that. He's sitting there going, I'm already not seen by anyone. You talk about being today. I just want to be seen. I just want this. I just want that. I just want Bill Burr, see me. I just want this. Girl, hey. This guy, you talk about somebody who cannot be seen at all. And within seconds and days and weeks will be not be able to be seen by a microscope. Who even knows at the point when this person will be able to breathe in H2O because those molecules will be too big to enter into his lungs? Who knows? He doesn't know. No one knows.
Isn't one of the last lines like I ceased to exist? Or there's almost this, it's like he gets so small that he just almost vanishes.
I'll go to the quote of it. And I'll actually read the end because finally at the end of this movie, giant spoiler alert, you already should have gotten away, but he goes, I looked up as if somehow I would grasp the heavens. God's silver tapestry spread across the night. And in that moment, I knew the answer to the riddle of the infinite. I had thought in terms of man's own limited dimension. I had presumed upon nature that existence begins and ends in man's conception, not nature's. And I felt my body dwindling, melting, becoming nothing. My fears melted away, and in their place came acceptance. All this vast majesty of creation, it had to mean something. And then I meant something too. Yes, Smaller than the smallest, I meant something too. To God, there is no limit. I still exist.
Mm, yeah.
And that is what he was looking for the entirety of the movie. After, not at the beginning, not when he was sitting there going, get me a beer, but after he felt hardship, he wanted to know that he existed. He was, in our terms of this parlance of our times, I am seen. That is what he's saying by I still exist. He wanted to know that he was seen. And that majesty of those words put together at the end of that movie, where you've watched this person be torn down and there's nothing left of them and there is no hope. And throughout the whole movie, you as the audience have hope. He will become big again. Someone will see him. Someone will hear him. But towards that last 5 minutes of that movie, you realize and start coming to the realization, shit, no one's ever going to find this motherfucker. He's going to keep going down until there's nothing left. And then you go, there is no hope. What has this weird 1950s movie left me at? There is no hope. This man will go down to where he's an atom, and an ant won't even be able to eat him because he's so small. What the fuck is happening here? And that's where they're leaving you in the end. They leave you, yeah, he killed the spider. He did this, he did that. Good, great last conquest. You will never be found, and you will keep shrinking till forever. But in that infinitesimal little moment, you find out that as small as it gets, he finally realized that he has purpose and he respects himself. And he is accepting himself. And then he brings that to the wonder of the universe. And then, yes, for religious people, brings it God. Says God twice in there. So that's very a religious aspect that's going on there. Even though the writer of the book, who also became the adaptive writer to the screenplay, in the book, there's no mention of God.
Oh, interesting.
As his adapted screenplay, as he put in here, God is mentioned only twice right in the end during that. So there's a interesting conversation to be had there.
Oh,
I do think it elevates it because you cannot leave the audience who has felt with Scott this entire time with an absolution of nothing at the end of this movie. I think you do need to elevate it to where this character finds some form of peace or some form of elevation.
yeah. I'll tell you, the way actually kind of interpret the whole thing is that it's about a man who is caught up in the workings of society, the status and money and, having a wife and family. He doesn't have children in this movie. But, the structure of society. And he's finding that challenging, right? Like what you said, he's emasculated and he's finding that challenging, and he's being tested. His brother seems a little duplicitous, and, does his wife really respect him? And there's these very subtle question marks, there, right? And so it's a story about a man who has to figure that out. He has to come to terms with all that. Like, how do I exist in this society? And that's, I think, ultimately where the story goes, is it goes to this place where he almost like transcends all of it, that through trying to find his place, it just in the society itself, he actually finds his place in the universe. Because he's able to work through all of these. Because I think, the idea of like the spider, that's the finale, that's the actual climax, of the like the traditional conflict. And he slays that beast, and so it's like he's able to kind of overcome whatever those fears are, whatever those internal things that I'm struggling with, the feeling of the smallness or whatever it is. And then yeah, I think ultimately it's kind of has this poetic, like his wife leaves, he doesn't end up with a traditional life the way that we know it, but it ends like in the cosmos, in this way of like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it becomes transcendent, and that completely just took me by surprise.
You hit it on the nail of the head. There's a weird aspect between the ending of The Incredible Shrinking Man and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like
Yeah.
you nailed it on the head. One of them, this movie comes out of left field because you underappreciate the film as you're watching it. And you go, wow, it's fully entertaining movie. But the end of the movie is a punch to the jaw where you go, oh my God. The aspect of this character accepting their place as a small little thing within the universe and being okay with that. It becomes such a monumental moment because the entire movie has been about shrinking, 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 shrinking not only size and this and that, and how you feel about yourself and everything. And in that moment, that's an explosion of that character going, I've realized that I am bigger than anything ever because I am a part of it all. And whether you believe in God or this or that or whatever the fuck, that character had their breakthrough moment of going, as little as I might be within atoms, I am as big as the universe. And that's where the end of that movie is pictures of stars and this and that and the voiceover of it all. And you go, okay, that person find their acceptance. And the sequel to that movie is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids because he walks out into the little grass and he's out there by himself. But in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, you got your friends with you.
Yeah, I loved the idea that it's like he gets so small that he becomes gigantic. There's like a closing of the loop there, where it's this anxiety and the tension and the fear of like I'm getting smaller, like what's happening to me. And it's this traumatic experience and then he's brought back to nature and he has to survive, with a spear and fight a beast. And it's like it's a horrible experience really, right? It's very difficult and it's like he doesn't enjoy it the whole way through. And at the very, very end, that experience of growing smaller becomes this, how do I say, like a,
Anamorphosis? I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you.
yeah, he becomes so small that it's like he becomes bigger.
Or he realizes that he was big the entire time. He
Mm,
realizes that he was
mm.
one of this giant sphere of well, I don't want to confine it to being a circle, but he realizes that he was always one of a connected thing. I know that they say God twice at the end of that thing, but he as a character realizes that an aspect of him is connected to a bigger thing. Now, whether you're 1 inch tall in this giant, ridiculous universe, or you're 6 foot or 7 foot or 8 foot, you should kind of look at the vastness of the universe in the same type of way. But he needed to get that small to be able to not be distracted and look up at all the vastness of everything and then be able to find himself. There's an aspect in there that still resonates to this day of like any motivational speaker or like Jordan Peterson or these people or that people, whatever triggering name I could say right now, they're all trying to give that same thing of make your own bed, find yourself, do this, do that. The ending and the whole synopsis of this entire film is trying to say what all the gurus now are trying to give everyone. And the ending of this specific movie in 1957 was on that same shit.
Yeah. It reminded me of Eckhart Tolle, actually. It reminded me of he wrote a book called A New Earth, where he opens the book, or is it The Power of Now? Anyway, he opens the book recounting his story of an awakening that he had, a spiritual awakening, and it was this euphoric moment of transcendence, and it changed his life forever. And when I was watching this movie, that's what I thought about. I thought that's really what this movie's about. It's about a man who goes on this journey, and it's hard, and he struggles, and at the end he has this complete transformation, and it ends up in this euphoric moment of spiritual awakening.
I think that's a great way of putting it. How many times did your wife look at the phone? Was she interested in the movie? I got to hear your opinion. I want to know what Hazel thought about the movie.
Well, she loved it.
Did she really?
She
Did she
did.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. And at the
That
end of
that
the
makes me
movie,
that makes me really warm because you know what? My mom's experience from 1957 as a little girl had ripples, and then I enjoyed the movie, and I've shared that with you, and you share that with Hazel, and I got to see the ripples of that, and that's just a sweet. I'm sorry, that's just a sweet
yeah.
little moment. So yeah, go ahead and ruin it. Where you go halfway through, she hated whatever she was
No,
this, but
she turned to me when the credits rolled and she said, "That was better than Mission Impossible." Yeah, that's real.
I have to say
Yeah.
that that's probably the greatest compliment that could be ever given to this movie, especially
Right?
coming from her. That's that she should write that on the IMDb of this movie. She should put down this is better than Mission
Uh,
Impossible. I think every dead person who worked on this film will raise from their grave and go, I just got the praise from Hazel. She did not look at her phone and she said this is better than Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise will kill himself, and that's fine. He'll find another way to live. But that is insane, bro. That's awesome.
yeah.
I'm very excited. I'm gonna tell mom about that. That's huge.
Yeah, and I felt the same way. I thought, wow, that's incredible that like this movie from 1957 could hold up that well. Yeah, and somebody, I mean, I was engaged the entire way through. I was pretty much riveted. Never bored, not a single moment of boredom. Always thinking, where's this movie going? Like, what's going on? Always engaged in the emotions.
It does do that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So just, and then that ending of just transcendence.
Majesty.
Yeah. Um, pretty pretty great. I was gonna say pretty incredible, but
Dude, you made me so happy.
yeah.
She made me so happy. That's fantastic.
I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stun doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The scripts in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark. A puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
I know what I was gonna say before. I was gonna say
Don't feel you need to cut that in perfectly. We're now into a new era of our episodes, right?
Yeah.
We're now into the sub 2 hour. So if you just randomly
the
start
sub
cutting
2 hour
things out of
episode.
these, if you start cutting these things out of these, we're gonna have 10-minute episodes. Smooth is here for us either way. Smooth would
Right.
love the fact of leaving this dialogue that we're doing right now in. He'd be like, bro, that moment that you guys just said, what were you going to do with the podcast? Were you going to leave it in or were you not? That was so meta, bro. Like, dude, I can't wait to fucking meet Smooth. The fact that I haven't met Smooth is pissing me off. Pissing me off. But if you cut,
he sounds
if
a
you
lot
cut-
smarter than that.
of course he does. But if you cut this part out, it means he doesn't fully know who I am. So leave it in. You know what I'm saying? Don't censor me, bro. Don't censor me.